big item of conversation this week was Drake Maye. Avoiding injury, avoiding hits. He took big hits last week. He ended up slamming the back of his head off the turf. I know that Josh McDaniels talked about this. I think was it yesterday.
It was yep.
When he had his podium availability and said, "Well, we can coach him and tell him these things, but it's pretty much up to the man himself, right? They can coach it all they want. How do they get Drake Maye to avoid these types of hits that he continues to take?"
I think a game like last week's is probably
avoid that one. Like it's crazy.
Avoid which one?
The one where he got spun around and thrown down.
I think you throw the football. So the thing to me about that game last week that would be a little bit of a concern, and again, the guy just went 21 for 23, and he's been balls for over a month now. Everybody knows it. But the thing that would be a concern for me is that I would say on almost all of his scrambles, you can find receivers who are open and open on time. And for some reason, he doesn't throw the ball. So the first third down of the game, he's got Stephon Diggs open in the flat to the right. He pulls it down. Maybe he doesn't think Diggs will be able to get enough yardage for the first down. He pulls it down. He scrambles for a first down. First down, great play. Okay. He does it again a little bit later where he passes up maybe a touchdown to Hunter Henry at the goal line, and he scrambles out to the left out of bounds right in front of the end zone. I thought he scrambled when he might have had Kyle Williams on a deep shot open down the field. Maybe it's a deep touchdown. Almost looks very similar to the booty play he ended up hitting for a score. So if you continue to turn these down and you're scrambling and you're inviting contact in that way, that to me is not a sustainable way of playing quarterback. Unless you get really good at sliding early and getting out of bounds, which he didn't do well enough the other day. So wouldn't you say that when you go for the stiff arm against a corner like Roger McCreary, who is the one who slung him down and had him hit his head on the turf, like, isn't there a time somewhere before you decide to throw the stiff arm where you could just say, let me just get down here and take the 4 yards instead of trying to go for 8 or 9 and taking the hit?
Yeah, unless it's down a distance and stick. You know what I mean? Like, I got to get to the stick. Like, it's 3rd and 4. Then I got a stiff arm. I got to make sure I get to the stick. I'm with you, though. Get down. It's a fine line. It's having vision on the field. And I think he has really good vision of not only the coverage, but the front and who's chasing him. Eyes in the back of his head. It's probably been a handful of times I'm like, throw it, because I see the guy coming from behind, but he knows he's there. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that play to Henderson in New Orleans, right, where he ends up flipping it to him sideways. It looked like somebody was inches
T-bone him from the left.
Right,
yeah,
from strip sacking him. So his instincts are great. I just, the only way this thing gets completely derailed, right? They're going to lose games here and there, and who knows how the season ends up. But the one way this thing gets completely derailed is if he gets hurt. So even if it's 3rd down, I would say, like right here, we're watching in the studio, moments before you decide, let me try to stiff arm this guy, even though he looks like a little guy.
Yeah, boom, Americas.
Roger McCreary is a tough little slot corner, as are most in the NFL. And so you gotta figure out a way to avoid that at all costs, even if it means we might have to punt here or we might have to kick a field goal here instead of score a touchdown, especially in a game like that one where, I know the game was still in the balance at that point when he took that shot. But that's a team you should beat, and they had plenty of time to go beat them and just outplay them because they're the better football team.
Drake Maye has taken big hits. He's also taken headshots that have occurred in probably 5 different games that we can point to, those being against the Jets last year in October, the Titans game, which even had the game-winning the big last-second play.
The game-tying play.
The game-tying play against Tennessee. His helmet bounced off the turf in that game against the Chargers. He had the actual diagnosed concussion. That was in December of last year. This year, his helmet bounced off the turf going back to the Steelers game, and then he had the similar situation this past week. I mean, those are 5 different games that it's on tape where he's taken shots to the head or his head has come off that turf in a very sort of fierce way. Those are problematic. You got to get him out of that situation. Quarterbacks over the years that had their careers shortened by things like that.
Yeah.
And you just worry. This week you would worry about it because the Browns are one of the best teams at forcing quarterbacks to get rid of the football quickly. They're second in the NFL in terms of time to throw for opposing quarterbacks. It's just over 2.6 seconds. And in terms of time to pressure, so something Next Gen Stats tracks, they get to the quarterback quicker than anybody else, 2.41 seconds. So he's going to scramble around. And I heard Bert talking about this on your show yesterday, I think it was. That ability to move around is key. It's essential. and allowing him as a young player to learn the speed of the game and figure out how to play. It buys you time. It buys you time to be still an effective quarterback while you're still figuring things out. So he's going to scramble on Sunday. The question is, once he decides to take off, what kinds of decisions is he making? Yeah. Is it to push the ball down the field? Great. Is it to throw it out of bounds? Fine. Is it to get down after you scramble for a little bit? Because not only does this front play really, really well in Cleveland, but their linebackers are fast. So those moments, like the one in Tennessee where it gets tracked down by a slot corner, that's more likely to happen than not, whether it's a linebacker, corner, or anybody else, because they have team speed. He's just got to be careful.
Should we be at all concerned about the rest of the season, given that we had so much hope and so much promise the last time the Patriots were a playoff team? That was 2021. We view them as a playoff team now, but is there a chance it all fizzles out at the end?
Well, sure, but I think when you're talking about the expectations for both those teams, in 2021, even though I don't think you'd look at their roster and say that was a great roster, they were coming off basically a 500 season the year before, and they had a quarterback who had a really hard time throwing the football. So you replace that with a first-round pick who showed a lot of promise early in the year. Now all of a sudden, hey, 10 wins is a possibility, and that's what they ended up with. This year's team was expected by a lot of people who follow it really closely to, barely even be a 500 team. So they're going to get there. So I think it is almost impossible for them at this point not to meet widely held expectations for them. And so it could fizzle out, yes, Beetle, but will it be the disappointment that 2021 was by the end? I don't think so. And I even hesitate to use that word disappointment because 2021, it was, hey, you got a rookie quarterback. It feels like you're building towards something. If they got 10 wins in year one, what's it going to look like moving forward? Maybe they can actually add some offensive talent around the guy so he's not throwing to Nelson Aguilar. And I think Jacoby Myers was his best receiver by far in 2021. So anyway, I don't quickly compare those two just because I view both situations as being very different.
Well, I lived that year, and I was excited about that year because I thought, hey, we found the guy post-Brady.
Right.
The Cam year, it was what it was, but they still won 7 games with Cam, and he couldn't throw. And then Mac officially beat out Cam through that camp, deserves to play. And Bill kept him tightened up at the beginning. Beal's right about this, man. If you let him go in that Tampa game a little bit, maybe they move the ball at the end and get a better field goal position. And maybe they beat Tampa. But there were stretches where there were easy games that he played better in. Going out to L.A. to play the Chargers. They sucked. And they still had Justin Herbert and a bunch of guys. And we beat them out there. And I remember coming off the bye. We all boarded the plane. And there was some bitching about the bye week about how practices were tough. And why were they so tough? Why were they in pads? We were the number 1 seed heading in week 4. It was 9. We were 9-4. We're the number 1 seed to go play the Colts on Sunday Night Football. And we got our teeth kicked in. And after that, you didn't have much. And it started to go downhill. But I do give the quarterback credit. I thought he was ready to play in Buffalo. The team got its ass kicked in Buffalo. I thought everything they threw at him, Mac did about as much as he can in Buffalo. But he doesn't. And the reason I say it's not going to be the same as that year. And that was a good year. He had a good feeling that year, but it fell apart. This quarterback is different. I've seen that quarterback make the same mistakes over and over. I knew it when he had to get his leg up in that hitch, or if he didn't get everything into it, that throw wasn't going to get there. There was sort of an arc on it. This kid flicks the back shoulder throw. He's hitting back shoulder throws on the sideline. Mac Jones couldn't do that. He's throwing cover 2 darts up the sidelines. Mike Vrabel says, we don't want to live out here a lot. That's for special people. The special quarterback showed you he made 2 big throws like that to Booty. It's crazy.
He's special. Listen, if you're looking for reasons, Beetle, to answer your question about any trepidation about what's to come, I think that listen, if you tend to be a little bit of a nervous Nelly, and there's plenty of us out there, right? If you're waiting for the boogeyman around the corner, it would be, to me, 2 things. Number 1, the schedule has to get tougher. The schedule outside of that Bills game, it's not going to be this easy the rest of the way. Some of the games that even look easy, I think, will be more difficult down the line, especially down the stretch. That Ravens game is going to be harder than you think it is. The Bills game is going to be harder than you think it is. That's number 1. Number 2, as much of a believer as I am in Drake Maye, is he going to be able to sustain this for the rest of the season? If he does, he'll maybe be the MVP. and you've got just this phenomenon on your hands, and he's going to be here for the next 15 years. And congratulations to you. But if he has any sort of hiccup, if he slows down whatsoever, does that lead to a couple of losses that maybe right now you're not anticipating? Those to me would be the two things that might be difficult to sustain.